In this video, we're going to show you how you can add both TPO value area lines as well as volume-based value area lines to your chart. So typically when people are using these types of lines, they're looking at them in the context of a TPO profile, otherwise known as market profile chart, or a volume by price study, which is otherwise known as volume profile. But what a lot of people are really most concerned about are certain levels: TPO value area high, low, point of control, value area high, low, point of control. But instead of just adding those particular studies or those lines, they end up adding an entire profile chart to their screen, or a volume profile chart to their screen. It's got all kinds of colors and letters, and you end up with a very jumbled looking page when really you just want certain levels to be plotted. So for a trader who is, a levels-based trader where you're looking at predefined levels like today's open, high, low, close, value area high, low, point of control, volume value area high, low, point of control, as opposed to lots of indicators, this is a really neat way to plot just that data without cluttering things up too badly. So here's an example of how you might set that up. Now, the first thing I'm going to have you do, and you may have seen this in some other videos too, is right click and go to chart settings and make sure your start and end times are accurate. So we're going to touch on this in a second as well, but for the purpose of this video, I want you to have 24 hours of data, but I want the start time to be the evening session open, which in this case is 5 p.m. Central or 1700 hours, so in Chicago. So if you're in East Coast, it would be 1800, and you can adjust for your time zone. So start time 1700, end time 1600. That means that the chart begins a new day at 5 p.m. and ends at 4 p.m. the next day. In other words, you're getting the entire session. I say 24 hours. Really, it's more like 23 hours or even a little bit less than that. But you're getting the entire session. All right, so we have 1700 and 1600 here. So if you push apply and OK, if you don't already have a custom setting in there, the chart's going to now reload. All right, now what you're going to do from here is right click and go to studies, and we're going to add first the TPO value area line study. So TPO value area lines, click add, and if you just push apply real quick here, you're going to get an instant response and the lines are going to be generated. So you can see the TPO value area high, low, and the blue line is the point of control. And the whole idea with this is that you have the ability to customize the way the lines are drawn and why they're drawn at certain areas. So if you look at the studies for the TPO value area line, you can see the default is 0 days referencing back. That means that it's actually referencing today's data. But a lot of times what people are looking for is they want this data to be based on yesterday, not today. So if you want the TPO value area lines to be based on yesterday, you would put a 1 in this field as opposed to a 0. And you can see when I hit 1 and put apply, the lines shifted down here to this area. That's because they're based on the prior day's session, which you can see makes a lot of sense. Point of control is right around here, value area high, value area low. So if you want the TPO value area lines to be based on the prior session, it's important that when you go to this settings section here, you have 1 set in reference end periods back. I really have not had to make a lot of other changes to these settings, although it's very well documented on Sierra's website, and if you want to, you can. If you go to subgraphs here, you can also choose to have the price label and value and the names added here. That's just by checking these 2 boxes for each line. And then you're going to get this response here. All right, I'll just kind of move out a little bit like this, and we're going to lock this fill space. So there's a fixed amount of space between the current candle and the y-axis. That's a right-click lock fill space once you have a certain desired space in here. So now we're getting this, the information we were looking for. Now, TPO value area high, low, or value area high, low, and the point of control are based on time. How much time did the market spend at this price? The area between the high and the low means that by default, the market spent 70% of its time in between those 2 prices. Anything above that area would be considered above value. Anything below that area would be considered below value. All right. Now, if you want to have a different study that is not based on time, but rather number of contracts actually traded, that's where volume value area lines comes into play. So this is a separate study with a similar behavior. All right, so if I apply it, you're going to see a new set of lines show up. And in the settings section, you're going to see similar interface, reference periods back, etc., set to 0 by default. I'm going to change that to 1. And then in the subgraphs, we'll just add these labels here as well. Okay, so it's a little cluttered because these labels are kind of long, but that's okay. In this example, it's still usable. So a lot of times you're going to see the value area high for the TPO and the value area high for the volume are similar. In this case, they're about a point apart. Where you get a big sort of disconnect between the value area high for the TPO or the volume or the point of control or the value area low for the TPO or the volume is when you see, as an example, like the market sitting at a certain price for a lot of time overnight, but it doesn't trade a lot of contracts. So from a TPO perspective, the market is staying at that certain price, and that is counting towards the TPO value area, uh, as time goes on, even though not a lot of contracts are trading. All of a sudden, the market opens. Let's say it rips higher, trades a ton of contracts. That's where you start to see a disconnect between the value areas for a volume-based chart and a time-based chart. So most of the time they line up, not all the time though. If you want to sort of take some of that overnight stuff out of the picture, one way to do that, and I'll just duplicate this chart here, right-click, duplicate chart. I'm just going to tile these vertically on the screen, is on my duplicate on the right here under chart settings, I'm going to change the start and end time to 8:30 to 1500, which is basically the New York stock market hours. So I have 8:30 to 1500, push apply and OK, and the chart's going to reload without the overnight data in it. And so if these numbers on the left, which is the chart that's looking at all 24 hours essentially, if they don't jive at all, and then you remove the overnight session the way we just did here, a lot of times you will see they come a little bit closer together. So there's a little personal preference in there, but it's just something to be aware of, is that value areas can be based on either the amount of trades or number of contracts that actually change hands, or they can be based on how much time the market spends at a certain area or within a certain area. Sometimes the market can spend a lot of time at a certain area but not trade a lot, like overnight. And sometimes it can trade a lot of contracts at a certain price but not stay there very long. So it's important to know the distinction in terms of, in the context of the way you're looking at the market and what you value as an important area, when you're making a distinction between these two choices. So these are ways where you can add these relatively important levels without the full profile, without the full volume histogram, cluttering up the chart. If you just want to know the value area high, low, point of control, either based on time or based on volume, and you don't care necessarily about drawing the actual profile on the screen, this might be a better fit for you. Okay, hope this helps. Let us know if you have any questions.